Namaskar. Hello viewers. Welcome to a very special program on Raag TV, where I am in conversation with Muhammad Khaki Sahab, the president of Raag-Mala, and an executive board member, Nishant Parekh of Raag-Mala. We are going to talk about in this program what Raag-Mala does and how it is promoting Indian classical music in Toronto. Very welcome, Muhammad Khaki Sahab.
Thank you very much.
And welcome, Nishant, to our studio.
Thank you, Raag TV and Manushi, for having me here. Very excited.
So, Muhammad ji, if you could please let us know, or let our viewers know what Raag-Mala is doing in Toronto, in Canada, promoting Indian classical music, that I know for sure.
Yes, thank you, Manushi, for having us here. Raag-Mala has been around for 36 years. This is our 37th year. So we've been around since 1981, promoting Shastriya Sangeet in Toronto, the Greater Toronto area, but also more broadly in Canada and other parts where we are able to collaborate. So we've been around for many years now, and to our knowledge, we're the only organization that focuses purely on Shastriya Sangeet, in promotion of Shastriya Sangeet, or if not the only, then clearly the longest serving organization.
So how does it all start? Raag-Mala's, if you could just elaborate a little about the history of Raag-Mala.
Yeah, so as I mentioned, we started in 1981. It's a purely volunteer-based organization. So we had, the founding president was Magadam Basna, and then he retired after a few years, and the baton, if you will, was taken over by Tapas Mukherjee, and in the last 5 years we have a new team, of which Manushi, I should add that you are a board member, as is Nishant, and Nishant probably wants to talk a few things about the new team that we have in place in the last 5 years.
Thank you, Mohammed, and thanks, Manushi. So, as Mohammed said, of course, we are one of the very old organization, almost 37 years. And, I instantly remember this quote that is my personal favorite, that as they say, music is enough for a lifetime, but a lifetime is not enough for music. And in last 5 years, I would say, Raag-Mala has particularly filled me with the music a lot. I find myself very fortunate that I'm part of this esteemed organization. We have had opportunity of having leadership of Muhammad, as well as, the foundation work that was led by Mr. Magan Bhai. It has carried forward, great legacy of different artists from different parts of India. And incidentally, even our board team also is very diverse. We are all from different parts of India. We have come here, settled here, and it's a very young and energetic team, I should say. We have members like Alia, who is looking after our social media and public facing activities, in terms of promotion. We have other young volunteers like Sujit, Mr. Nitin. They are all very enthusiastic in serving this organization. And I personally also am very fortunate that I can look after the website, as well as archival aspects of all these concerts, which I'm sure in time to come, 10 years, 15 years down the line, will be like a gold treasure.
Yeah, so the administration group aside, I think we are uniquely situated, as Nishant is pointing out, to sort of bring bridge the communities together. So we have on the board people who are of Marathi descent, Punjabi descent, Gujarati, East African, Caucasian, Canadian, and really that is one of the cements for Raag-Mala, why it has been successful. And so we are pretty focused in the kind of artists we bring. We bring artists from Maharashtra, from Bengal, from Delhi, from South India, if we have opportunities. And we've had the who's who of Shastriya Sangeet. So if you look at our first concert, we had Hari Prasad Chaurasia and Pandit Ustad Zakir Hussain. And then we've had Shiv Kumar Sharma ji, Ustad Vilayat Khan Sahab, and really the who's who of Shastriya Sangeet who have performed for us.
Right, and that is even happening now. I know that Pandit Rajan Sajan Mishra ji has recently done a concert which was a big success, and last year we had Shahid Parvez, Ustad Shahid Parvez Khan Sahab, so it's going on. But I'm just wondering, where do we get all the funding from? Who are our supporters? So if you could please shed a little bit of light on that.
So as I mentioned, this being a volunteer organization, funding is always a challenge, and we've fortunately been able to rally people who are music lovers from the greater community, Toronto community. And so the backbone, I would say, of our funding comes from volunteers. So these are people like, we deem them to be benefactors who give us $1,000 each, and then patrons give us $500 each per year. And then we have our regular membership, which is $20 for seniors and $40 for regular members. But the funding that we get from the patrons and the benefactors accomplishes two things. So firstly, the fact that we have roughly 40 patrons and benefactors, that means there are 80 people who are pretty much guaranteed to come to all our concerts. So they provide us with a base of listenership. And then we sell tickets outside that. And then secondly, that extra funding that we get from benefactors and patrons, which by the way we can treat as charitable contributions because we are a registered charity, that gives us the impetus to bring artists that we would not be able to bring had we not had that additional funding.
Right.
So, and then we have the Ontario Arts Council has been a long-term supporter. But as we know, the support from government agencies has been dwindling in the last few years. So right now we are at about 70% of what we used to get about 5 years ago. That's the reality of it. And we're trying to seek out other corporate supporters. And we have people who are just volunteers. At our last concert, one of our donor member gave us additional funding to provide cheap tickets for students.
That is just amazing. I was just about to ask you about the local artists. So of course, the who's who of the Shastriya Sangeet are coming to Toronto. We are inviting them. But what about Toronto artists or artists who are probably who live in the GTA area? Do we do some concerts for them too, with them?
So yeah, for sure, our mandate is not only to bring artists from India, but we also firmly believe in promoting local Indian musicians as well as even some of the Canadian citizens who are pursuing Indian music. So I'll give some examples. Ramnik Singh ji, who is from Indore Gharana and she lives in Oakville, she has performed for us here locally. We have Hardeep Channa and Jasmeet Channa, two brothers duo who have performed for us. We have Kiran Morarji, who is an able tabla player. All these local artists get an opportunity to perform for us. And besides our regular concert season, around summertime, we also do collaboration with Harbourfront and other venues where we promote these local artists. And another unique endeavor I would like to mention is we are not only talking about here local artists, but even local students here and the next generation of Indian diaspora. So recently we conducted a couple of workshops at schools here in Peel District and Toronto School District Board, where we went to school, we showed the students history about Indian music, some of the instruments, how they are played, and this all were done with our local artists. And Mohammed, if you have any other local artists that comes to your mind?
Yeah, so we do definitely try to promote artists who are based in Canada. And we do it in two ways. As Nishant says, we actually present them in the public at special concerts. But I think more and more we're learning that another opportunity would be to actually have them perform with more established artists. At the upcoming concert in May, we have harmonium player
Nilesh
Nadkarni, thank you. Nilesh Nadkarni, he will be accompanying on harmonium. So we're finding opportunities to present Canadian-based artists with more established and well-known artists from overseas. So that's another way. Another way we do it is by giving publicity to people. So we have a number of teachers in Toronto. So one teacher that comes to mind is Rasika Jog, and she has a school. And we promoted them through articles in Desi News, who is a partner of Raag-Mala, media partner, as is Tag TV, by the way. And so Desi News has had features of musicians who are performing in Canada, who are also teaching. So there was one issue we did last year, or a couple of years ago, where we had that features of 3 or 4 musicians, Vinay Bide, who's based in Ottawa. So that is how we are also creating a mix for artists to teach, to be showcased, to be encouraged to participate more on the global stage and not just be...
Yeah, and I also know Andrew K, Jonathan, and they also perform for us too, Amitaria.
Right.
There are many Canadians and Torontonians who are performing for us.
Yeah, and you know, that is part of Raag-Mala's mandate. We are firmly committed to finding opportunities. I think Alia mentioned that last year in 2017, out of the 16 artists we presented, I think there were about 7 concerts and 4 Betaks. We had roughly 9 of those events, artists were Canada-based artists. Right. So that is a fairly large achievement, a high achievement. You know, we're getting there, and the artists are also maturing that we feel confident, because really we want to stick to what we are doing best, which is bringing impeccable artistry in Shastriya Sangeet to the Toronto stage and broader.
And but so how is Raag-Mala encouraging the second generation Asian Canadians to be exposed to our heritage, Indian classical music? What's Raag-Mala's role in that? Because I know, immigrants who are there, the first generation there, automatically they want to come and listen to this music. But what about the second generation Asian Canadians?
That's a really good question, and it's a question we keep asking ourselves. And how do we engage people? And the question becomes, I'm sure the Toronto Symphony is asking those questions. The Canadian Opera Company is asking this question. Soul Pepper Theatre is asking this question, because traditional art forms in this age of technology and social media is changing. How we present this artistry is changing. So what we know is that we want to remain true to our mission, and our mission is to bring the best of Shastriya Sangeet, of Indian classical music, to Toronto and broadly. And maybe Nishant can talk about that in a minute, but broadly make perhaps Raag-Mala's concerts available in a broader sense. But how to go back to your question about how do we engage young people, and I think that has to come through the school system. And we have started a youth initiative, and it is our mission really that in the next 5 years we want to make Indian musical instruments, Indian music, part of the school curriculum. And we will have to work with the school boards, we'll have to work with funders like the banks and so on, who have the wherewithal to fund the arts and the community's efforts. Because really the way we see it, it's pretty evident, but I should still mention it, that Indian music, Indian community is part of the Canadian fabric now, and it's more so in the last 20 years. And so Indian music needs to be part of the cultural fabric of Canada. And we shouldn't be talking about Indian music, we should be just talking about music that has Western music, has Indian music, that has Chinese music. And we're really working with school boards, libraries, to make that happen. And I think already this May we have, during Asian Heritage Month, we have a library presentation, we have a school talk that's coming up. So we want to make this as part of the
yeah, and that way it's not just the second generation Asian Canadians, but also the mainstream Canadian students as well. So they get to see what Indian classical music is all about, and they can come to our concerts too. And as you said that we have given them discounted tickets. Well, one of the donors, he was very kind to do that. So that's also promoting.
And Manushi, I just want to add one thing.
Sure.
So, and I have a slightly different perspective. Mohammed spoke about inside-out view of how Raag-Mala is promoting second generation and the young Canadian kids and students. But I also would like to say that I encourage every parents who are coming to Raag-Mala concert or who are from Indian origin. It is their duty also to expose their child to Indian music, or what we call it Hindustani classical music, because it's very important. And I can give you examples. Vibhas Watwe, who is a very promising young talented harmonium player. Swarang is another very young boy who is singing. So it is very important if their parent encourage them. And I would like to mention that most of these concerts that I go to, I do not see outside Raag-Mala, I do not see much young kids, because they believe in YouTube and everything is online for them. They don't really enjoy the live. But I'm amazed to see that at Raag-Mala, most of our balconies and our seats are often filled with very young students, college-going students, from not only Indian origin, but even I've seen Canadian, Chinese. A lot of people are coming to our concerts, and that tells a story that our music is ageless. It is not, there is a myth, or there is people like to believe that classical music is for older people, but that's not true. We have a lot of young musicians who are pursuing.
Right, and also I believe that our partners, Raag-Mala's partners, they also have a big role to play. So who are your supporters? Who are our supporters, Raag-Mala supporters? If you can mention like maybe the media partners and other partners who encourage us and Indian classical music.
So we have Tag TV has come on this year as a very strong supporter, and we are thrilled with that, because I think that's the future of broadcast is internet. And so there's the fact that we are doing this program on for Tag TV is really very heartening for us. And then we have the media, print media, which is Desi News, and as I mentioned, we carry Desi News carries an article every month before the concert that we are performing in. So if you look at the April issue, that would have had the May concert that's coming up, which is in early May. They would have information about that. So that has been very helpful in getting the story out. But just going back to Nishant's point, when your son Nishant is taking tabla lessons, for instance. So you were too modest to mention that, but yes, absolutely. Getting our children engaged, playing Shastra Sangeet, and it's not very complicated, Manushi, as you know. You're a musician yourself, and you know that Shastra Sangeet is an extremely accessible art form. All the classical songs, the popular songs that are famous from, that are still sung as classic songs by Lata Mangeshkar, Na Bole, Na Bole, Na Bole, that's based on Raag Bhageshri. Jaag Dard Ishq Jaag, that's based on Bhageshri. And we have morning rags, Lalit, Ek Shahenisha, from Leader, that's based on Raag Lalit. So this music is not, we call it Shastriya Sangeet. Perhaps I should use it as a different term for it, but I like the fact that it is classical. But it has its roots, the songs have their roots in this music, and it's an extremely accessible art form.
Right. So where do you see Raag-Mala in your future, and what are its goals that we are trying to accomplish?
Maybe I'll let the younger Nishant answer that.
Yeah, so of course we want to sustain the kind of art form that we have been presenting, but at the same time we also want to look at the future and see how we can even broaden our reach. So right now we are limited, for example, to GTA, because most of the venues are here, but in future we are toying with idea of how about live streaming our concerts so the whole world could see. So that is one avenue we are exploring. We have also in the recent past recorded some of the finest artists like Pandit Uday Bawalkar ji, Arati Ankalikar ji, Pandit Partho Sarathi, who is going to perform next weekend for us. We have recorded them at a very unique studio, and we also have plans to perhaps make a label out of Raag-Mala and make this kind of music available. We are also expanding our reach on social media. So 3 years, 4 years ago, we had a very limited presence on Facebook, on Twitter, on Instagram, but thanks to some of these technologies, today we are able to share our clippings, images of these concerts with a very broad audience. And we are hoping that with the influx of some of the immigrants and this young generation that is coming up and joining Raag-Mala as a volunteer, we would grow even further, and who knows, in future we might collaborate outside of GTA, maybe do some broader audience and broader concerts, in different venues in North America.
Oh, that's great. Yes, we just had a concert with Pandit Rajan Sajan Mishra ji, and I would like to show you a small clipping from our concert with Pandit Rajan Sajan Mishra ji.
राखत है कछु मन मयल भरि गगर मोरि लुढ़काय चल.
So we just saw a clipping from our recent concert of Pandit Rajan Sajan Mishra ji, and I'm really curious to know what is happening next for this year. What are the upcoming concerts? So let's ask Muhammad Khaki Sahab and Nishant about our upcoming concerts.
Yeah, so we've had a tremendous reception at our first concert of the season. And incidentally, that concert happened to be the first in the North American leg of Bhajan's Bhairav Se Bhairavi Tak, which was a tour, a global tour of Pandit Rajan Sajan Mishra. So we were really thrilled. And this is pretty much what's happening, that Raag-Mala is being recognized as being a premier spot for musicians, because we have the music lovers who will come and listen to them. So our next, Nishant is probably looking forward to a couple of musicians, and perhaps Nishant, you can tell us which artists you're really looking forward to this year that are coming.
Sure, yeah, I'm pretty excited. 2018 is going to be one of the fantastic season. Next weekend, May 5th, we are going to have Pandit Partho Sarathi on Sarod, and Srimati Shruti Sadolikar on vocal. And incidentally, Pandit Partho Sarathi is also a favorite of my son that Muhammad mentioned. He is learning tabla, but he is fond of sarod instrument, and he really enjoyed the last concert. So I'm really looking forward. But my personal favorite, and I'm like so keen of listening to, is Pandit Uday Bawalkar ji. He's performing for us on June 3rd at Aga Khan Museum. And Drupad music, I'm telling you, it was one of the best concerts we have had in 2015, a morning concert, and I'm really looking for the same experience with Pandit Uday ji. And of course, Mohammed, you can share about the rest of the concert for 2018.
Yeah. So before I do that, I just want to mention that we are bringing back artists who are much loved by our volunteers and music lovers as well. And Uday Bawalkar is a prime example of that. He is a man, he is in his prime, and we want to hear him at his prime, and hopefully we'll have him here this year and then in the next 2 to 3 years again. And that is our point, is that we want to bring artists, as we did with Shujat Khan when he is in his prime. We've had him perform many times for us. The same with Shahid Pervez. And so we're doing that more and more. Arati Ankalikar, and as you say, Shruti Sadolikar is performing this year. So this year, Shruti ji is coming after a very long time, so we're very excited about that. And of course, Uday Bawalkar. But another artist in his prime is Ajoy Chakravarti, Pandit Ajoy Chakravarti, and he's going to perform for us in September. Kankana Banerjee has a program in July, and I'll come back to that program in a minute. But then we are also looking for collaborations during Nuit Blanche on September 29th, 30th. And we have a great lineup, tentative lineup. The Wahani sisters, there are a couple of young female musicians play the sitar and the sarod, and there'll be a female tabla accompanist with them. So we're really excited about that. Pandit Shantanu Bhattacharya is also on that bill for Nuit Blanche, as is Ustad Ken Zuckerman. Ken learned with Ustad Ali Akbar Khan Sahab for many years. And so we have them on the slate in September 29th, and then we'll be finishing off our season in October with another student of Ali Akbar Khan Sahab, and that is Josh Feinberg. And Josh plays the sitar. He's a young, very talented sitar player. And this is part of our mandate to bring North American musicians and musicians who might not get otherwise a lot of stage performance space. So Josh, though, having said that, he just came back from a tour of India, so he's being very well recognized in the community. And then one of my favorite young artists is Manjiri Asanare, and we're going to finish off the season with her at the that. But going back to this concert in July where Kankanaji is performing, we're really excited about that concert, and because here is Kankanaji, who was a student of Ustad Amir Khan Sahab, of the indoor Gharana. So very senior musician from India. And we have Canada's own Ratan Bamra. He's a very young and talented Esraj player. And so he will be performing on his Esraj, and Gurinder Singh, who's also based in Toronto, will be performing on tabla. So we're giving once again the opportunity for Gurinder and Ratan to perform with a senior musician. And in fact, before that particular concert, Ratan and Gurinder will present a Esraj solo. So we're delighted to be presenting an instrument that doesn't get a lot of widespread
So
listening.
I'm just wondering about the venues that Raag-Mala chooses, and Nuit Blanche, where is that happening? That sounds very exciting.
Yeah, so that we're still in consultation. We last year it was at the Aga Khan Museum, and that worked really well because we had part of the concert in the auditorium, and then the part of the concerts were in this special yurt, which was a very cozy, intimate feeling, and we had Ustad Pandit Samarsa and do the tabla solo, and then a morning concert by the very young and talented musicians from the US. So this year we're still in discussion, and it could be that we will do part at the Glenn Gould Studio and part at the Aga Khan Museum, but we are in discussion with them. But those two venues for us, the Glenn Gould Studio and the Aga Khan Museum, are surfacing to be the go-to venues that we would like to perform at, because they are both, they hold about 340, 50 people, so they're small enough for the kind of intimacy that Shastriya Sangeet lends itself to. So we more and more we are holding our concerts in those two venues, and the feedback we're getting from the musicians and the listeners is tremendous. They love being there.
Again, both of them have an amazing sound system, and acoustics are really good. So it's really working out for us for both vocal and instrumental form.
And we have got great feedback from audience, so that's amazing. So I would say, what will be our message to the new generation? If Muhammad Ji, if you can talk about that.
So the message is very simple. This music is amazing. It's absolutely riveting. It's music that once you get into your life, it's a life-changing music, really, because people talk about something that is very authentic, and what is very real, very authentic. It'll provide not just pleasure, but a lot of spiritual satisfaction itself. And Shastriya Sangeet, Indian classical music, has all the elements that one can listen to for years. And as as Nishant said, a lifetime is not even enough. And it sounds very cliched perhaps, But I talk to musicians, I talk to music listeners, and it is true. You know, there are rags that we've heard over the years, but you can still listen to them, and when you listen to them, you find new things about them. And it's like any art form that is so pure, that is so authentic, and that makes it like such an important part of yourself. And I think music is also, it's such a grace. I mean, it's free almost. You can download a lot of music these days, but nothing beats the live experience. And so we will continue. I think our tagline is that come share our music. You know, come listen. Come share our love of classical music. And that's all I can say to young people, is that just listen to us, give us a chance, sit back, and let the music just flow through you. It's a beautiful music.
Thank you so much, Mohammed Ji and Nishant, for coming to the studio and talking about Raag-Mala and Indian classical music. It was a pleasure having you in our studio.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you, Manushi. Thanks for having us.